Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we're going to be talking about the E2 Armory Titanium Nitride BCG. But before we get into that, I need to go ahead and thank the sponsor of the video and the channel, and that is, of course, Gun Deals. If you don't know, Gun Deals is a website that provides you with links to some of the best deals within the industry. Basically, whatever it is that you're looking for can probably be found on their website for the lowest possible price. Now, they don't buy or sell anything. They don't take your money. They only point you in the direction of, again, some of the best deals within the industry. So, whatever it is that you're looking for, go ahead and check out their website. Once again, that is gun.deals. Go ahead and thank them for having me on their channel with my own exclusive videos for them, and of course for supporting the channel, allowing me to shoot so much and to bring you guys a lot of the cool videos that I do. They've been the best long-term supporter of the channel, and for that we do appreciate it. Now, if you want to help me personally, you can of course like, share, and subscribe, because all that sort of stuff is free and it does help me out quite a bit. Also, comment something nice about this flashy BCG down below, and of course there's also Subscribestar, which you can pay me a couple bucks a month for some extra content, and of course get entered in some pretty cool giveaways. On top of that, we do have Mark IV upper receivers. This is my current test Mark IV right here, which will eventually be sold as well, but these are live on the website and being sold now. This is an 18-inch SPR profile barrel, rifle length gas. You can see the gas block just poking out there at the front of this 14-inch M-lock handguard. We have 3 different handguards available. We're out of muzzle devices for the most part. We really only have A2s left, but this is an extremely heavy barrel. Very accurate, very accurate. And this one here also has the special barrel collar that allows it to accept the Ops 12 muzzle device, which is basically a over-the-barrel suppressor like you would find on the Mark 12. So this is basically a non-Mark 12 but a Mark 12 style SPR upper receiver. Extremely accurate, fairly heavy, but extremely accurate Toolcraft BCG, and they ship for $400. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into my relationship with E2 Armory and talk a little bit about the basic specs and tech on the BCG. Now, I don't have any real relationship with E2 Armory. I've never talked to any of their guys. However, a marketing company did reach out to me and ask me if I wanted to do a video for E2 Armory. So a lot of this stuff, how it works within the gun industry, if you didn't know, is there are basically 4 or 5 large marketing companies that do most of the marketing for most of the big companies out there. And then they act as intermediaries to talk to little guys like me or much bigger channels as well, asking if we want to do reviews on certain products. Now, that being said, again, I don't have any real relationship with E2 Armory, but part of my personal stipulation for doing a long-term review on a BCG, because they are more difficult videos to produce, merely because the only way to really test how good a BCG is to shoot it quite a bit. So not only did they send me the Titanium Nitride BCG that they make on their website for free, but they also paid me $400 in ammunition. Now, I want you guys to know that up front, that I was paid $400 in ammunition. I bought 3,000 rounds of ammunition, so I actually ended up spending quite a bit more than that $400. But as of right now, I have put in, about 1,000 rounds that they've sponsored, and then 2,000 rounds of my own ammunition in my own testing through this BCG as of right now. So one very nice thing that they do on their website is they go into excruciating detail on every single component in your BCG, which is good. You want to see how everything is made, what the specs are for everything, because a lot of times people will say, oh, it's an enhanced bolt carrier group, but they don't really tell you what's better about it than anything else or what sort of spec they follow. But this is a printout directly from their website, and they go into excruciating detail on every single component that goes into here. So I did print this out just so I have this handy, so I'm not trying to speak from memory, because again, they do go into great detail on everything. So let's go ahead and start out with the carrier. Now, the carrier is going to be the most basic part of this BCG, because the carrier is made out of 8620. It is again a full auto profile with your forward assist serrations on the right side. So overall, it's a very standard profile and design. However, there is one or a couple of very special things about it. First off, the entire thing is coated in titanium nitride, which, as we'll get into later on when we talk about the coating, does an extremely good job of being hard and lubricious and heat resistant, all that sort of stuff, and it is held up extremely well. Now, another very important thing about this carrier is that the chrome where the actual bolt fits into is hard chrome plated. Now, chrome plating on your BCGs is excellent in my opinion. You really want it on the bore and the gas key. Chrome is just extremely hard, it's extremely lubricious, it's extremely heat resistant, corrosion resistant, all that sort of good stuff. And so it is in the most pivotal of areas, in the bore and the gas key, that's where you want that highest quality, hardest coating. So chrome lining on top of the extremely good exterior coating means that the carrier performs to a very, very high degree. Now moving up, the gas key is made out of 4130 and it is of course entirely coated in this titanium nitride finish. It is also Permatex gasket sealed in between the carrier and the gas key to make sure that there's absolutely no gas leakage whatsoever. And on top of that, we have true grade 8 fasteners on top that are staked and performed breakaway test to mil spec. On top of that, they are torqued down to 55 foot-pounds, which is quite a lot of force. Now, on top of that, it is of course externally coated in this titanium nitride, but internally it is hard chrome plated. Now, this is a gas key that you do not want to rust out or to have any sort of corrosion issues on the inside, because it is one of the most difficult parts of the carrier to clean. So hard chrome plating does just about the best job that you can do. So in that sort of respect, absolutely perfect, no issues with that whatsoever. Now, in terms of our cam pin is a very standard profile. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. It is completely coated in the titanium nitride, and they go into detail exactly what it's made with and what spec it follows, all that sort of stuff. Now, our firing pin retainer is very standard, nothing special there. Our firing pin itself is completely hard chrome plated, so it is a very high quality, I believe it's 17.4 standard profile. It's not an extended or an enhanced firing pin, but stainless steel, hard chrome plated, very, very good. Minor corrosion on it. I have cleaned this fairly often, which we'll talk about in testing, but fairly good there. And as I mentioned, our cam pin is a very standard profile. The only thing special about it really is that it does still follow with the titanium nitride coating completely. You can see there is some wear on there on the coating, but the coating itself has not come off. Very impressive with a bolt with this round count. Usually you would see extended signs of wear all over the cam pin and the carrier, but again, we'll get into that in just a minute. Now, let's go ahead and pull the bolt out, show you guys the bolt carrier. So here is the bolt carrier with, again, that hard chrome internal on the bore in here, which again is an extremely hard, lubricious, heat resistant, all that sort of stuff. And if you looked at this carrier, you would not think that it has the round count on it that it does. Again, this is at around 2,500 to 3,000 rounds of ammunition. A lot of that suppressed. It's done fairly well in basically everything that I've tested it with. And you can see extremely minimal wear. There is some discoloration on top up here on the titanium nitride. Not sure if that's just like a heat spot or something like that, but this also does clean extremely easily, which is very, very nice. Now you can see some machining marks here on the inside of the carrier and like here on the rails and some on the underneath on top of the gas key. So there are some machining marks, but overall the machining is done to a much higher quality than on some cheaper BCGs where you will see a lot of machining marks like on the actual sides of the carriers, not on the rails, but on the actual sides of the carriers and stuff. But overall, the machining work on it is done very well. Everything is assembled to mil spec or greater, and that titanium nitride finish has done an exceptional job of holding up. So overall, very, very impressed. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the bolt. Now, the bolt I have done some pretty extensive cleaning on. So there is some carbon buildup here in the back, and these are actually brand new gas rings, so we will talk about that in just a minute. But overall, the bolt is, again, nothing special and actually has the one area of wear on the BCG, and that is on the lugs. The lugs, the locking lugs have a shiny spot or a bare metal spot on the back left corner, the back right corner of all of the lugs where it locks and unlocks. That's what takes the most force, the most impact repeatedly. So that is not surprising. And that is the only real area of wear on this BCG. And again, for the round count that it's at, that is very, very good. As you can see, it is held up extremely well. Now, this bolt is 9310, and it is magnetically particle inspected as well as high pressure tested as well with an M197 or SAMI equivalent. So As far as a bolt goes, it is going to be doing a very good job for a very long period of time. And again, you can see that those lugs are basically perfect with just that little wear mark on the back of them. Now, the only thing on the bolt that's not titanium nitride plated is actually the ejector pin, which is just mil spec, nothing special whatsoever there, but it is the only thing that's going to stick out as not being hard chrome or the titanium nitride plated. Now, as far as our extractor goes, everything is mil spec and standard in terms of profile. However, they are using very high quality springs, the true Vuitton O-ring for enhanced extraction force, as well as insert, so there is a excessive amount of extraction force. And while I have had this bolt carrier group installed in several or a half dozen different rifles, I have had exactly 0 failures. So while it doesn't do anything special in terms of geometry, all of the materials are exceptionally high quality, and the coating, as you guys can see here, has held up extremely well. It's very, very easy to clean. Now, it should be noted that every 500 rounds or so, I did a pretty deep clean on it just to check to make sure for wear or anything else like that. So where normally there would be a lot more carbon buildup here in the back, but I didn't really let it build up anywhere on the carrier because, again, I was cleaning it more frequently to check for wear and abrasion and, you know, what other anything failing on the BCG itself. So now that we've talked about most of the basic things about the bolt carrier group, its makeup, parts, materials, that sort of thing, everything is extremely high quality. Everything is done to mil spec or better in certain cases, especially the titanium nitride coating, which has held up extremely well. So I have had this BCG for quite some time. The first video that this would be featured in would be all the way back like 3 or 4 months ago with the Bear Creek Arsenal 16-inch, and then the Primary Arms SLX video, I think, were the first 2 that I really started using it on. But it's been on the BCA 16-inch gun, it's been on the Faxon 11.5, it's been on the Mark III, it's been on the Mark IV that you see right next to me, it's been in the Geisley, it's been in the Roscoe for quite some time. So it's been on 6 or 7 different guns. And again, since I have had it installed in any of those guns, I have had exactly 0 failures with any of them. Now, if you listen to me when I was talking about the gas rings, they are brand new. And that is because around the 2,000 round mark, I noticed that the gun that I was using, the Roscoe race gun, was slowing down, and it was getting even softer and softer and softer. And a likely culprit of that sort of thing is going to be either your gas block or your gas rings on the BCG. So I did a very simple test on the BCG, which is to see if it will lock or unlock on its own weight. So if you pick it up just by the bolt, it should not unlock. And vice versa, if you set it down on its face, it should not close. It should stay up. So you can lock it, of course, but it should not do that on its own weight. Now, the gas rings were worn away to the point where it would open and close on its own weight very, very easily after only a couple thousand rounds. Now, the first 1,000 rounds at least were basically 100% suppressed on non-adjustable gas block guns and fairly over-gassed guns like the Faxon 11.5. I basically shot that 100% suppressed with this bolt carrier group, and it did a very, very good job, but that is going to accelerate your wear. Now, some people will say your gas rings will go out at around 3,000 rounds or 5,000 rounds, or some people say that some of them will last 10,000 rounds, and you can even get, I think Kaw Valley Precision makes a solid gas ring that they claim will never wear out, so basically an indefinite amount of rounds. But regardless of that, 2,000 rounds is a little bit early for the gas rings to wear out, except in some exceptional circumstances. So short-barreled suppressed on an overgassed gun might be one of those circumstances that increases the wear on the gas rings, because of course those gas rings work to seal up all those gases in the back of the carrier, which then acts upon the bolt and opens up your action, all that sort of fun stuff. And so they are wear components, and they are going to wear out eventually. In fact, one of my highest round count guns is a Bear Creek Arsenal 10.5, the first 10.5 I ever bought. I put like 10,000 rounds on that barrel and bolt carrier group, and I never changed the gas rings. But because it was so over-gassed from the factory at about the 7,000 to 10,000 round mark, it got very, very soft shooting, and that's because the gas rings were essentially gone, but it was so overgassed that it was still forcing the gun to function, basically. Now, that's not really what I would recommend. I would recommend a gun being gassed properly, but if you shoot a gun for, say, 5,000 rounds, you should notice it start to slow down, especially towards the end, just because that gas is not being quite as efficiently trapped, and that force is not being transferred into the bolt, which, of course, you know, operates the action, and the slower it gets, the worse the gas is actually sealing with those gas rings. So a very simple $5 upgrade. I put in brand new gas rings, and it does everything as it should, no problems. Takes about 10 to 15 pounds of force to open and close the bolt, as it should, which you won't really notice in normal use. Now, I was afraid that it was machined improperly, and I just didn't notice that when I first got it. However, once I installed the new gas rings, the fit and finish is tight, while not being overly tight like I've seen on some BCGs where they need like 1,000 rounds just to kind of loosen up a little bit and actually feel good. But the bolt to carrier fit is very, very good. Now, everything on the BCG, that's the only thing that would give me pause. The finish itself, honestly, when I see titanium nitride bolts, a lot of the times I'm thinking, it's for flashiness, it's for looks, like that sort of thing, or it's a little ugly, honestly. It's kind of like somebody who has, you know, red accents on everything on their AR-15. But after using it for 2,500 to 3,000 rounds on like 6-7 different guns, the finish has held up incredibly well. So well, in fact, that I'm going to try to get these in some of my Mark series of upper receivers, you know, at hopefully like a dealer or distributor price, obviously to keep the price down for you guys. But they just work so exceptionally well. There is, again, the only wear spot on the BCG at all is the back of the lugs. Now, with all that being said, is it actually worth the price that you pay? Because these are retailing right now for $175. Now, $175 is not that much to spend for a BCG. Your premium mil-spec-ish BCGs are going to go for about $100 to $150, depending on where you get them, who you buy them from, like that sort of thing. And you can get budget bolts for $70 to $90, but you might be losing out on some performance and longevity, that sort of thing. They probably will work fine for a certain amount of time. But overall, a good bolt carrier group can be found for around $100, sometimes a little bit less. But all of those coatings, nitride, phosphate, those will all wear out at around the 1,000 to 3,000 round mark. You're going to start seeing some pretty aggressive wear on your rails, on the side of the gas key, and especially on your bolt lugs. So all of those finishes kind of pale in comparison to the finish that I've seen on here. The only finish on a BCG that I've seen held up or hold up as good as this has is the Geisley bolt behind me, which uses their diamond-like coating. They have a very, very special coating that does a very, very good job. There is absolutely no wear on that bolt whatsoever at about 1,500 rounds. And I would assume at about 3,000 rounds, or about the similar round count as this bolt carrier group, the wear is going to be about the same, with only minor wear on the back of the bolt. Now, that bolt carrier group is $300. So it's a large step up in price for some premium features. They have some different geometry going on within the bolt to theoretically make it more reliable. But again, that bolt carrier group is about $300. So this is really only just above, in terms of price, only just above the kind of mil-spec plus bolt carrier groups. But as far as titanium nitride coating goes, it's towards the lower end of the spectrum in terms of price. And because it has a hard chrome bore, hard chrome gas key, I absolutely think that that is worth the extra money. So if you're just talking about it in terms of finish quality, the finish on this is going to last double, triple, quadruple as long as like a really good nitride or a really good phosphate finish, though phosphate's not really all that good of a finish to begin with. It does a good job of absorbing oil, which is one of its claims to fame, but other than that, not all that good. But because the outer coatings on this are exceptional, this titanium nitride has held up so well, and they're only charging again $175. If there is an application for you for a bolt carrier group that is essentially, again, mil-spec, but the exterior coating is just far beyond any sort of mil-spec coatings that you can get with nitride or phosphate, then I think it is worth the extra 50 to 75 bucks over your budget bolts. If you're not really putting that many round counts through it, or you don't really care about the finish wearing off, because again, the only difference in terms of performance, it has held up extremely well, but most of the time your nitride bolts and your phosphate bolts, they're not going to be having any problems. The only issues that they're going to be running into is some of that finish, some of that lubricity is wearing off, because that finish is just not as tough as the titanium nitride finish on the E2 Armory bolts. So while I do think that the bolts are worth the money, and I think that they are very, very fairly placed within the market at 175 bucks, for the budget enthusiast who doesn't necessarily care about the finish as much as they care about just reliability, a good Toolcraft BCG, which is actually in the Mark IV right now, they're about 100 bucks for a good Toolcraft phosphate / chrome BCG. So it has a chrome internal bore and chrome gas key, phosphate finish. That phosphate finish is not going to hold up like this well, but the important parts are going to hold up just as good, because again, they're still hard chrome plated. So it really depends on what you're looking for. For me personally, while I probably wouldn't fit every rifle that I own with one of these, having at least one laying around, because again, I have like 12 different ARs laying around at all times, having at least one of these bolts on hand or two of these bolts in different rifles for, like, say, long-term applications could be a very good idea, especially if you're in very wet environments. Basically, if you live in an area that's very prone to rust and stuff like that, then these can be a good addition, because I live in the Pacific Northwest here in Washington State, Western Washington, and it rains about 300 days a year, so everything that I use gets quite wet. So in certain circumstances, I think that these are absolutely worth the money. For the absolute budget shooter, probably not. And if you're just into top-end things, I think that there are more specialty bolt carrier groups. So if you're looking for a suppressed bolt carrier group, this isn't really going to help you out in that suppressed category, because it doesn't have like the extra cuts on it like the CMMG bolts do, or the Surefire suppressor optimized bolt does. So there are different things, different bolts out there for specific applications, but what I think of this as is a very, very high quality general purpose bolt. So overall, I really, really like it. I do want to thank E2 Armory again for sending this out for gun deals, for sponsoring it and helping me to reach that higher round count that you need to do to test a BCG. But overall, that's about it for the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think of this BCG or any other BCGs that I should be checking out. And that's about it for me, guys. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off.